Hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in this beautiful world. All right. So, y'all should know the drill by now. If you're joining me live, pop in the chat. Let me know you here. Because this is definitely going to be a session where I'm going to be asking some questions. I want to see what your thoughts are, and really read what comments you have. Let me get a little water here. All right. Okay, so today I want to talk about authenticity as it relates to workwear. So the real question is, just like it says in the title, is authenticity part of your workwear? Simple question, no? So if it is part of your workwear, I want you to drop a yes in the chat. Tell me how it is part of your workwear and what way you think it shows up for you. If your response is no, I also want you to share why you're not feeling that your authenticity is part of what you wear to work. Okay? So yeses in the chats, no's in the chats. If you're catching this on the replay, definitely drop your thoughts in as well. Is authenticity part of your workwear? And you might be in the middle. You might be a maybe or a kind of or unsure. Drop that in too. Okay. I think that this notion, right, this growing trend, this growing demand, this growing need, this growing culture to be authentic in all kinds of spaces, especially at work. This is something that I think it's just been bubbling for a very long time. And now it's here. It's here. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And so I think it's a really important time for you to understand what it looks like and what it feels like for you to bring more of your authentic self to work. And so I think even one thing off the bat on this whole notion of bringing more of your authentic self to the workplace, I think one big mistake that people make is that they hear that term and they immediately think all or nothing. So if I bring my authentic self to work, that means I have to act exactly the way like I do when I'm with my friends and family, right? I bring all of those elements to work. How I dress on the weekends, how I dress when I'm going out to the concert with my girls. I'm bringing all of that and I'm bringing it into the workplace. Like, that's what it means to be authentic. Or on the flip side, they're like, okay, well, I'm just not doing that because I don't want to get fired. People seem to always work in these extremes, and it's just not that simple, right? It's way more complex. It's way more layered. And so we want to open up the invitation to you to figure out what it means for you to be more authentic in the workplace and add that to your workwear. Because the bottom line is that, as an image consultant, I've talked about this before, but one of the key things that I learned right off the bat that I was like, this is gold, are the ABCs of image. And those ABCs are the same things that you should be using to evaluate how and if you are bringing your authentic self into your workwear and into your overall presence on the job. Okay. And so the ABCs are appearance, behavior, and communications. Appearance, behavior, and communications. And so when we think about those ABCs and we think about, like, am I bringing as a whole, the umbrella level, right? Like at the top tier, am I bringing my authentic self to the workplace, period, right? You want to think about it in terms of those three areas: appearance, behavior, and communications. How do I bring more of myself to the table in the way that I dress, right? In the way that I look? How do I do that in my behaviors? How do I do that in my actions, in my mannerisms, in my nonverbal cues, in your communications, right? How do you do that in your presentations, in your water cooler conversations, right? Or your virtual coffee chats? How are you bringing more of your authentic self to those kinds of conversations? So you can begin to do a bit of an assessment and just really observe yourself, right? And I think those areas are very, very clear. I'm sure there's stuff that's already popping top of mind for you, right? And so in our conversation today, we're going to deep dive into that first area, right? Appearance. And what does it mean to be more authentic as it relates to your workwear? So I want to tell y'all a little story. So I think many of you know, those who might be new may not. But I used to work as a management consultant in the government space for primarily like large IT companies that were all about doing business transformations. So basically, a lot of the times we would be implementing some new technology that was going to transform the way that a company operated. So the impacts to their employees, their processes, you know, as a whole, everything was changing. And so we would come in, implement the change, but also then provide some guidance to people around how the change was going to impact them. So one of the first clients that I worked with when I started this job was the Department of Defense. Child, this was like back in 2004, 2005. So it's a throwback. So I was working with this client, and I was a junior analyst. I was just an analyst. I think that was just the title, right? But fresh out of college, right? Just excited to have this job. I was like, yes, I am a corporate woman. All of that good glory was happening. So it was on client site. And, I've been on client site for, I don't know, probably a couple of months at the time. And I was doing a good job, doing what I do, excelling in my space. And one of the things that the client mentioned to me, we were in a meeting, and actually at the time I was working with another colleague, and we were team members, and we were kind of co-leading an initiative. And he was also another analyst, worked for a different company, and he was a white male. And so our client was commenting about my performance and about me in a meeting. And she was saying, you know what, Nana, there's just something about you that, like, when you walk into the space and when you talk and you offer perspective, I just really believe what you're saying. Like, it just comes across really strongly and confidently. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that, and she said, she's like, I think it's just your look. She's like, it's your look and it's the way that you carry yourself. It's just the total package. And when she said that to me, I didn't take it lightly. It really resonated with me. And I said, I really, really appreciate that. And at the time, it was something I probably didn't even know as deeply as I do now what that really meant, and then in the conversation, she talked about my peer. And I mentioned he was a white male. We were probably a similar age. Yeah, he may have been maybe a year older than me, I think, at the time. He was there on the project for at least a year before me. And I could tell that in that, meeting, I mean, listen, it was like the three of us and we're talking and we're strategizing and this is what she says. And like I said, I was relatively new. So I think she was just providing some feedback and perspective on that. On my performance, having just arrived to the project. And I could tell that my colleague, it was a little uncomfortable. He was definitely, I think, then doing some self-reflection and saying, well, do I come across that way? Because she's never shared that with me, right? And she didn't provide any feedback for him. She didn't say anything favoritively or unfavoritively towards him, but you could just tell in his body language that it was uncomfortable. Then looking at him, then I started getting a little uncomfortable, and I was like, okay. So then later, after the session, after the meeting with the client, we come back together. We're chit chatting, and he was like, "Yeah, that was a really interesting comment, that the client shared about you." And I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "It's true. It's true. It really is true. Like you definitely have a presence." And I was like, "I appreciate that." And that was the end of the conversation. But what started to happen in the next few weeks is that he started showing up differently. Prior to that, he was wearing kind of your standard J. Crew, back in the day, Abercrombie and Fitch wear, right? Khaki pants, a blue checkered shirt, call it a day. May or may not have been buttoned all the way up. Just classic wear for white males in the workplace, right? After that, let me tell you, my man started rocking blazers. He started coming with suits. And everybody was like, "Where are you going? What you doing? You job interviewing?" Everyone had commentary. And he said, "Listen, I'm just I just want to take it up a notch." And others did not know why he all of a sudden wanted to make this change and come to the workplace in this way. But I was like, I see you, boy. I see you. So I tell that story just so that you understand sometimes the impact that your presence can have, and definitely that your style can have in the workplace in a very conscious and unconscious manner, and that it can have on your peers, right? It's something that's very said and unsaid. So I think the question then becomes, as you think about authenticity and what it looks like in your workwear, is I think like two major things, right? Like when I talk a lot with clients, these are kind of the two areas that I hear the most about when I ask the question, do you have more authenticity in your workwear, right? It's either uncertainty or fear. Those are kind of the two sentiments that are happening. A lot of times it's uncertainty. A lot of the clients that come to me, they want to show up with more of their personality. They want to be more bold. They don't feel like their clothing represents themselves. I hear this over and over and over again. And the reason why they haven't done anything about it is because they're not sure how to. And in some cases, they're not even sure what that really means, right? That's one sentiment. The other sentiment is simply fear. You are afraid of the consequences if you start to do anything that has a little bit more of your personality and what we think our personality looks like, right, outside of work, right? Because for some of us, there's this like immediate black and white shift that happens when we're in work and when we're out of work, right? And you're afraid that if you bring more of your outside of work personality into that space, you're afraid you won't be seen as professional. You're afraid of how people will perceive you, and you are afraid it's going to impact the trajectory of your career. You're afraid. So these two sentiments of uncertainty and fear, It's real. It's very, very real. But I think at the end of and at the core of it is the fact that two things. One, you know that the way that you are dressing when you are at work is not a true representation of who you are. And I think that that piece can hold you back. The second piece is that you know that your image, your style, your appearance is influential. You know that it plays a part in your personal and professional development, right? You know that. So you know you need to make changes. Just like my white male colleague knew, I need to make some changes and I need to figure out how I can have more of my presence come through. Like sometimes it might need a little bit of, you might need a little assist. You might need to see some representation and see somebody else doing it or hear a comment from somebody else. Then that sparks you to make the change, right? You never know how it's going to come through. But at the end of the day, you know what needs to happen. So I think that, these spaces of really wanting to have a comfort level around how you are at work is really, really important. Comfort, I think that's like the biggest thing. And that looks like a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I think the through line is the same. When you bring your authentic self to work and you think about it in terms of your workwear, there's a comfort that comes with it. Because authenticity, very simply, is just being comfortable in your own skin. Being comfortable in your own skin. So when you're in a space, you feel like you belong. There's a feeling of belonging, a feeling of worthiness. There's a feeling that you don't hesitate to ask a question. You don't hesitate to voice your opinion, right? You don't fidget with what you're wearing, second guessing yourself. Like when you're able to be more of yourself at work, and when your clothing is an illustration of that, it just takes the pressure off. One less thing that you have to focus on in the workplace. And it allows you to put that focus and that time and that attention into doing the work, into actually delivering, right? Producing the results, doing what you do. So I really want you to, like I said at the top, really think about the ABCs of image, appearance, behavior, and communications, and use that as a starting place to really do a little self-assessment around how you're showing up more authentically at work. And then when we break that down on the appearance level, I want to dive into what that looks like for you and give you some tips around how you can show a little more of your personality at work. Okay. So for me, I think the biggest thing about showing up with more of your personality at the workplace is that it can be the ultimate conversation starter. Showing up more authentically is a great conversation starter. Okay. And at the end of the day, sparking conversations is going to get you more attention, right? People are going to then want to tune in to you, what you have to say, what you have to share, the work that you're doing, etc. So sparking conversations is so important. And if you don't have the natural ability, if it's not your knack to just do that, like for you to take the initiative, right? That's not everybody's wheelhouse. Everybody's wheelhouse is not to just spark conversation, to just see the senior partner of your firm and walk up to, that person and have a chat. Like everyone cannot do that successfully. Some people try, fail miserably, just start yicking and yakking and nothing to say. They're like, oh, that person is there. I should talk to them, right? Um, but other people do it with a lot of finesse, you know? And I think that people that are most successful at work are the people who are the most comfortable in their own skin. And they find the ways that they are most comfortable and they allow that to shine. And so your style, how you're dressing, is just another way that you can have conversation. And the way that you can do that allows you to not be the one to start, right? But allows people to give something to respond to about you, right? Portia's like, this is real. It's very real, right? So people then will react to you. You know, I don't know how many times I would go to work and I would be wearing something and somebody would comment about it. They would, whether it was a compliment, whether they said, "Oh, I really like that color," like they would say something. And that's because we are visual creatures. People see things and then they think, then they speak, and then they have reactions, right? So if people are always looking and watching, give them something to watch, give them something to react to, give them something that speaks to who you are. Don't just be another carbon copy of everybody else. That's not authentic. That's actually very inauthentic. That's the exact opposite, right? So authenticity allows you to really have that space of comfort and also allows you to have this space of serious confidence in who you are. Okay, Portia's like, yeah, she's had some experiences at work and events. 100%, right? And I know how you come through, so I know the response is positive. All right. So that's the thing that your style can do, that and that's the reason why it's such a powerful tool, and you don't want to underutilize it, right? So when you talk about just bringing more of who you are, right? Bringing more of who you are. You're comfortable in your own skin and you want to showcase that, right? That's how you're going to bring more authenticity. You're comfortable in your own skin and you want to showcase more of that to others so that you give them a little bit of insight into who you are. And you can do this visually. People always think about how to do it verbally, right? What's my elevator pitch? Like, what am I going to say if someone says, introduce yourself? And those are all extremely, extremely important, right? Because we talked about the ABCs of image, right? And communication is one of them. But the other thing is that you want people to actually invite you to have the conversation, invite you to the table because they've seen you and they think there's something worthwhile here that I want to learn more about, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be memorable. That's what we're going for. At the end of the day, you want to be memorable. That is the goal. If you're at work, you want to be memorable. You want to like really anchor and cement a presence and a fond memory in people's minds so that the next time opportunities come, promotions come, those calls come, they think of you. Yes. Portia says Brittany Johnson is also really good at this. She's intentional about what she wears to networking events and always gets compliments. Great conversation starter. Brittany is so good at this. I love it so much. I love seeing her posts. She's always rocking it, and definitely that intentionality, it goes so far. So I want to break down 3 tips, 3 different areas that you can focus on when you're thinking about your closet, right? Like, let's get tactical. Let's get up in the closet and you're looking at your workwear and you're thinking, okay, Nana, I do want to bring more of my personality to the office, but I don't know how. I'm in the uncertainty space. How do I do it? Give me some tips. Okay, the first tip I have for you is injecting more color. Color, 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 color. Yes, Brittany. Color is so important. And it's one of the easiest things you can do. And the reason why inserting more color into your wardrobe is so effective is because color has meaning. We talked about visualization, right? Like different colors communicate different things and elicit different reactions, right? So as an example, red. Red is the most striking color. It is the most noticeable color. So if you know that you have a very commanding presence, if you know that maybe your presence is not as such and you want to start to build it more, red is a color that is always going to be noticed. You will always be seen. And so by sprinkling it into your wardrobe, you will get noticed. Okay? Brittany's on board. She's like, adding color is a must, right? It is a must. And the other piece that's really important is that when we talk about color, you want to really think about colors that have, I'm get a little more technical here, but colors that have a deeper value and more saturation. And when I say this, it simply means that colors that have more pigment in them and colors that are going to be more striking and vibrant. So colors have a spectrum, right? So if I were to take the color blue, that color could be as light as a baby blue, right? It could be light as a pastel blue, right? Think Easter egg colors, right? It also could get as dark as a navy blue, as a midnight blue. Those are the opposites when you think of that color blue. And too often in the workplace, when people think of blue, they go to these extremes. This is like classic suit wear, blazers, trousers, shirts, right? This is literally the DNA of every white male in America in the office. This is literally the formula, right? It is like light blue shirt, navy pants. Like, this is it. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but it's not going to get you memorable because you look like everybody else. So if that's your goal, accomplished, right? When we think about adding more color, you want to play with the colors in the middle, right? You want to play with these colors in the middle. Where's your cobalt blue? Maybe you're going to do a little bit of turquoise, right? Add the colors that have more punch that get you noticed. Okay? Portia knows. Where's the lie? There is no lie. Right? Add the color that's going to get you noticed. Okay? So color is a really important piece. And you can start simply, right? Start simply. I think I mentioned this in another post of mine, but some of my favorite colors to add, if you're looking in your closet and you're like, all I got is black, Nana, and I need to start injecting a little bit more color. Colors that I love, we talked about a little bit of red. A red blouse goes a long way, right? So you could also add, if you're looking for more punch, some blue, teal blue, cobalt blue. These are some great blues that you can interject into your wardrobe that are also going to go and marry really well with the other blues. And you could do a nice monochromatic theme. And if you're just kind of starting out and trying to figure out some ways and what colors and playing with colors and figure out what really works for you, you can start there, right? So you can start with some colors you already have in your wardrobe and just start to figure out, okay, I need to punch this up. So I need to go brighter. Okay. Another color that you could that I love to play with, purple. Purple, 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 purple. I think purple is such a great color, especially for women, especially for women of color. Purple is a color of royalty. It really is a color of sophistication. And it definitely is a color that goes with so many skin tones. Okay. So figure out your colors and how to interject them into your wardrobe. I would start personally with your tops. I think that a lot of times, like we talked about, all or nothing at the top, like people immediately go for extremes and they're like, well, do I need to get an all red suit? No, baby. No, boo. You don't have to get an all red suit. Okay. If that doesn't connect with you, if that doesn't make you feel 100% comfortable, right? Because there's a comfort element of this. When you're able to be comfortable in your own skin, that allows you to really shine, right? If you're not comfortable in a red suit, if that doesn't make you break out in hives, but instead that makes you say, like, I'm going to be fly, like, it's instant. You got to really tap into how you feel and what some of your instant reactions are to these things. So you might be that bold person who's like, let me get the red suit. If you're not, it's okay. Because this is about doing what feels comfortable for you in your skin, not about anybody else. Okay? Authenticity is not the game of looking at everybody else and see what everybody else is wearing and then copying it. You will fail. So instead, start small. Focus on tops. And the reason why you want to focus on tops is because it's closest to your face. And your face and your eyes is where you want to draw people in. This is what people are going to see first, especially if we're talking about virtually and in person. Okay? So focus on tops. All right? So we talked about color. Second piece is culture. You can easily put in elements of your culture into your workwear. What does this look like? My family is Ghanaian from West Africa. I loved to add a head wrap into my workwear. So I might wear the black suit to work, right? Because it's classic, still sophisticated, works well. But then I would wear African accessories because that speaks to my culture. And I know it's going to be a conversation starter. People are going to ask, where's that from? Oh my gosh, I would have never thought to wear a head wrap with a suit, right? That's the goal, to have conversations. Authenticity can do that. When you really show up as your authentic self, people get curious. They want to know. They want to engage. What made you wear that color? Like, it looks really good on you. I don't think I can wear that color, but it looks great on you. Oh, you know what? I'm really experimenting with color right now. Like, this is the first time I bought a top that's purple and worn it to work. So you saying that it looks good, like that makes me feel really, really, really confident. Thank you. Own it, embrace it. Don't shy away from it, right? It's not a space to cower about. It's a space for you to feel empowered about. So when you think about your culture, that's very personal to you. This could be your culture from your heritage, where you're from. And it might be you're from another country. It might be that you're from simply another city or state, right? Like, you might every day come into the office and maybe you've got a great jacket that represents the city you're from, right? Or maybe you've got a great bag that does. Like, there are so many different ways. Like maybe when it's casual Friday, you've got some great teas that speak to where you went to college, fraternity, sororities you're a part of, right? Like, your culture is such a big umbrella. So, like, really think and pull from those spaces. If you're talking about, doing things in a more traditional way, right? And what you would wear to the office on a more reoccurring basis, I definitely think that adding pieces of your culture into your accessories is an easy way to go. So that's your jewelry, right? That is your glasses, your bags. Like those are the places that you can easily pick some elements of your culture to add in. I know, for example, one of my clients, I love this that she does. She works from home often, and it's a more casual environment. She works for a tech firm. Um, and so people show up, t-shirts to every call. Like that's the culture of that company, right? That's a very important piece too, right? So you want to understand and know what that company culture is and what your goals are for that company. We talked about that in another live, right? Like that being just part of those building blocks. And so one thing that she does is she wears t-shirts that have all kinds of different sayings, and t-shirts that have HBCUs on them. Like that's her way of representing her culture, right? So she went to an HBCU and she loves all things related to Black culture. So that's an immediate conversation starter, right? Whether it's a graphic tee or word or a tee that actually has words or saying on it, that's going to spark conversation. Oh, you went to Howard? Oh, cool. Like, oh, my sister went there, or I had a colleague before who went there. Like, people are going to respond and react. They're going to see you. And sometimes it's very much that people see it and they register it. And it might take them a few moments after to say, oh man, you know what? I love that you always wear t-shirts of like colleges. Like, where was that one in North Carolina you were talking about? I'm telling you, especially when it has to do with, as people of color, like we have so much richness to our culture. There's so many different spaces you can pull from, right? And sometimes with our white peers, there's a lot of curiosity that comes with that. Okay. There's just a lot of curiosity that comes. And so when it does come in, again, in the best optimal situations, you could use that again to be conversation starters with folks. Okay. And pull them in to have those conversations. All right. Yeah, Portia says, I love to wear an on-car or anything to networking events and while teaching webinars. It's immediately true. And shout out to A Different World, Portia. Classic, right? So, it's those types of things where, shoot, you could be wearing a t-shirt that says A Different World, right? Like, it's those small little nods that speak to who you are and that make you feel comfortable and make you feel really good, right? And then when someone does ask the question, you're not like, oh, well, I don't know. I think I got this some random place or whatever. No, you dressed with intention. And so you are very ready to say, oh man, A Different World. I grew up on this show. Like, this is the show that taught me all about what it was like to be part of a Black family and go to a Black college. It's phenomenal, right? Like, let people in, start the conversation, share more about yourself, right? That's the goal. Second thing, or next thing, third, we talked about color, we talked about culture, company. Company is where you buy your pieces from, where you shop. And one of the best things that you can do is shop from places that are connected to your values, right? Your values are so deeply connected to who you are. So I do my best to shop at a lot of Black women-owned brands because I'm a Black woman and supporting them is so important to me and a really big part of my value set. So you might ask me, oh, where'd you get that necklace? Oh man, I got this from a small women-owned boutique in Baltimore many, many years ago. But it was like, it's an amazing shop. I saw it and I was like, I gotta have that. Oh, it's so great. Oh, I don't shop at boutiques a lot. Maybe I should. You really should, because they're really great. You know what? There's a couple of other small Black woman-owned boutiques that I know that have really great jewelry too. I'll send you an email with a couple of them. Oh, awesome. That conversation could be between you and the partner at your firm. You could be sitting at a meeting, waiting for a client, just by the water cooler, as they like to say, right? At any point in time, you could be sparking conversation with people who you want to remember you. You want to leave an impression. So you might also be somebody who has an affinity for sustainability, as an example, right? So it might be really important for you to be shopping at, stores that are very conscious about how they treat their employees, fair wages, using quality fabrics, right? Less plastics that leave a less of a carbon footprint. So you might be able to introduce that part of your value set and talk about those companies that you shop at. Maybe you love high end. Maybe you love luxury and high end brands. There's nothing wrong with that, boo. Do you think? Right? And so maybe there's an opportunity for you to tastefully, chat about that, right? If somebody asks where you purchased the bag from, or somebody compliments you on your shoes, maybe it's that's an introduction. It's like, you know what? I have a deep love and affinity for really quality shoes. So I have some Louboutins, and these are one of my favorites. Right? But that lets people know that she's a shoe gal. Okay, yeah, she doesn't play, because I see all the time her shoe game is on point. People are always noticing. They are always observing. Always. They might not talk about it, but they always are. And I think the thing that you could do with your style and how you show up at work is give a person a reason to talk. Give them a reason to comment. Give them a reason to have conversation with you. Okay? If this is registering and you have some ideas about how you're going to bring more of your authentic self together in your workplace, how you're going to spark these conversations, drop them in the chat. I want to read about how you're going to start incorporating some of these ideas into your workwear. And if this is helpful, drop in the chat and let me know. Okay? So the last thing I want to leave you with is that I know when in particular, when I work with a lot of my clients, one of the biggest things that I tell them is that you want to create a look, right? When you're getting dressed and you are going to work, you want to create a look, and you want to be very intentional about the look. So you want to think about, what kind of impression do I want to make today, right? In some cases, when we get dressed, sometimes, especially if you're going for different events, if you're going networking, if you're going to a recruitment event, if you're going to a company function, right? There might be certain people that you've earmarked that you're like, I really want to have a conversation with this person, right? So move with intention, right? Move with intention when you're thinking about what you're getting dressed with. If you know that you're thinking about a promotion, if you know that you're going into an important client meeting, make sure that you are wearing pieces that have more color, that are going to spark conversation, accessories that are going to get you noticed, right? Be intentional there. And one of the most important things to think about when you're creating that head to toe look is what I call the cab, right? And so these are the three key elements to any look: your clothing, accessories, and your beauty. Clothing, shoes, that's together in that C, right? Very simple, very straightforward. Your accessories, the A. Think about jewelry and non-jewelry accessories, right? So maybe it's that dope pair of frames. Maybe it's a cool hat. Don't leave out that work bag, right? Because you carry that with you everywhere. Make sure it's a piece that's going to start conversation. Whether it has great quality, great color, it's from a company, that you love, right? It has a node to your culture. Find some way for it to tie in to who you are, your value set, what you believe in. Lastly is beauty. Beauty is your hair, your nails, makeup, skincare. And I know for Black women, this is something I've been seeing on so many comments and so many posts on LinkedIn about our hair. And women who have just recently felt more empowered to wear natural hair in the workplace because they were so afraid. They fall into the fear category. They were afraid of not being seen as professional, right? Not being seen, not being comfortable in their skin, being nervous about coming to the workplace with natural hair and what that would mean. Because of years and years and years of seeing and believing and thinking that your hair had to be like in a short, relaxed bob to be professional. You can wear a short, relaxed bob, and that's fly. You can also have your hair out and show your natural curls, and that's fly. You could do locks, you could do braids. Like, the world is your oyster with your hair. Your hair does not determine your professionalism. It does not. So I just want to, if you're watching this, like release yourself of that pressure. Release yourself of that pressure. But these three areas, your clothing, your accessories, and your beauty, these are three great areas that you want to explore and really understand how you can be more true to yourself. And if you need encouragement, especially in that beauty department, like myself included, like my hair was always a thing. I'm gonna have to probably do a whole other session on hair. But finally getting to a place where my hair is like, when I just cut my hair and I went short, I wasn't even natural. I was relaxing my hair, right? No shade. Like, it is your choice, right? I had a relaxer and I had a short, like Holly Berry cut. When I went to college, I was like, oh yes, this is me. She has arrived. And that was what made me feel really good. Because while growing up, I always had a weave or braids. I always had to put other hair into my hair to feel like I was beautiful. Woo, untrue, right? So that beauty component, like really tap in and find out what it is that's going to make you feel the most authentic. And it might take some experimentation. This whole thing is experimenting until you land at the space of comfort and confidence. Okay? That's what you want to be. You want to be at that intersection where you are comfortable, you're going to be confident. And when you're confident, you're comfortable, right? And that's going to allow you to what? Have more conversations. We running this C. Y'all know I love a framework. So it really is about that, right? The more comfortable you are, the more confident you'll be to have more conversations. And people will engage in more conversations with you. And that's the key. That's the key for you to really position yourself as someone who is going to be remembered in the workplace. And when you really start to embrace more of this sentiment of just being authentic and being comfortable in your own skin and being present at work in that way, I tell you, you're going to see a change in the shift in the way that you behave, in the way that you show up. It will translate over time. And you'll see it also too in the way that people respond to you. I think it's such a common misnomer if you think that there's going to be a negative reaction to you doing this. That's not it. People really respond favorably when you have conviction in your beliefs and your abilities. If you come in with the confidence, if you come in demonstrating your intentionality, people will fall in line. They will gravitate. It will be magnetic. It will be in your favor. Trust and believe. But if you're wobbly, if you're talking with the squeaky voice, you're not going to get the results that you intend to have. Right. Portia, as long as you do the work, who cares what your hair looks like? Listen, we give so much credence to what other people think, and other people's opinions hold you back every single time. And that's really what's preventing you from showing up more authentically in the workplace, because you're so concerned about what everybody else thinks. What do you think? What do you want? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Because I guarantee you, anybody who's successful at your company, within your industry, they had the courage to show up as more of themselves and as less of somebody else. They just made that finite decision. And then every day, through their appearance, behavior, and their communications, they continue to show up more and more like themselves. And that is what puts them in a position for professional success. All right, I done laid down all these bars. I'm about to go drink a cup of tea. I appreciate y'all. Let me know in the chat, what were your biggest takeaways? If you're catching this on the replay, definitely let me know. And y'all just dare to be courageous and be your best selves, and show up as more of yourself in these workspaces. People are really ready for it, and they will be praising you beyond acceptance. They will be coming to you with so much praise, and encouragement and support for it. So embrace it and do it at 1,000%, to the space that makes you feel the most comfortable and confident. All right. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of the day, and I will catch you next Wednesday, 9 a.m. for LinkedIn Live with Nana. All right. Peace.